Hi, welcome to the WELS History Channel. Today we're with Professor Joel Otto from Wisconsin Lutheran Seminary, and we ask Professor Otto, what's one event in WELS history that you think more people should know more about?
One can go in a lot of different directions about that, Ben. And thanks for having me on doing this. I would say one that I think more people would kind of be fascinated by is the what's often termed as the Wells 49ers. These are two pastors who went, Pastor Edgar Heinecke and Arthur Wacker, both pastors in Michigan, who went on an exploratory trip to Africa to find a place for the Wisconsin Synod to do overseas mission work. There had been a desire to do this for quite a while. By this time we had our mission work in the Apache reservations going on for about half a century. We had done some work over in Poland that got interrupted because of World War II. And so there were a number of men in our synod who really wanted to carry the gospel overseas, aside from the work we were doing with the Missouri Synod and the Synodical and others in the Synodical Conference over in Nigeria. And so the story kind of starts in 1935 or in the mid 30s. Our synod was saddled with a debt that was debilitating. And it was Edgar Heinecke, a younger pastor at the time, who really led the charge in getting word out to the synod, using publicity materials, pictures and graphs and stories about the synod's work. And by 1945, that synod debt had been paid off, and in fact, there was money in the bank. And so the 1945 Synod Convention, Heinecke, he was on the Apache, he was the chairman of the Apache Committee, and he basically said, we need to do this overseas work. And the Synod Convention approved that and approved the formation of a committee to look into it, to look into what that exploratory work might involve. There was a lot of debate that went on exactly how that should be done, but by 1947, at the Synod Convention, the convention approved a team to do exploratory work. It took a little longer yet to find two men who would be willing to go, and finally it was Heinecke and his neighboring pastor in Michigan, Arthur Wacker, who agreed to go on the trip. And so they had to scramble quite a bit to get everything in line. They had to leave their families for several months. They had to make arrangements for their congregations to be taken care of. They had to get the vehicle. They had a Dodge Power Wagon that was basically a do everything vehicle that was going to be shipped go over there on a ship, and then that they would use to go in their exploratory trip. Um, it was something like an 8,000-mile sea voyage, followed by a 4,000-mile trek across southern and central Africa, starting in Cape Town, South Africa, and winding their way eventually to find the area that we ended up starting, basically the area we started doing work in what today is Zambia, in South Central Africa. Some of the stories that are told, the Wells 49ers, that name is coined because I think it was kind of coined by Heinecke himself, and it was the title of the article or extensive telling of the story that he did for the Wells Historical Institute Journal back in, I think it was the late 80s, early 90s. And just hearing it from his voice, the people they met, the time when they're just trying to get across a river on a raft, that you wonder, man, is the vehicle going to make it or not? Is it going to fall into the river, and is that going to be the end of the trip? Just all those different things that they are dealing with, and this vehicle is also their living quarters and everything, and so they're really roughing it. And so for these two men who were, I think, both in their 40s or early 50s, who made this trip, it's quite remarkable. And they had to be able to fix the vehicle as it was breaking down at different times, and dealing with muddy roads that weren't all that great, and yet they persevered. And just hearing that story, and then what Heinecke did was, along the way, he was taking video film, or film, and he created a film strip called Africa Still Calls, that was numerous number of copies were made, and those would go then when they came back, those went around the synod. People could churches or groups of churches could get the videos, the film strip, and show it to their congregations to raise awareness, to often raise mission funds and so on. That video is still available. You can find it has been put onto YouTube. If you type into YouTube, Africa Still Calls. I think it's our uh, World Mission site that has World YouTube channel that has that we really should get that on our
Hmm.
WELS history. We've got to work on doing that on our WELS history site here too, that it can be accessible to people. It just is a fascinating video to see from his perspective. Uh, again, this is 1949. Things have changed quite a bit, and just how the difficulties, the interesting people they met, the excitement they have for bringing for the potential of bringing the gospel to another place. And so when they get back and they finally report the 1951 convention, they didn't quite make it back in time for the 49 convention. So it was the 1951 convention then that approved sending two missionaries to, or a missionary to Japan and two missionaries to Africa. And by 1953, those first two missionaries were in Africa and beginning the work. And well, today there's a Lutheran Church of Central Africa in Zambia and Lutheran Church of Central Africa in Malawi are still church bodies that are existing and becoming slowly becoming much more independent, where the WELS, our support of them has changed. It's not missionaries on the ground anymore, but it's more supporting the work that they're doing and trying to help them with ministerial training and those sorts of things. And so you see the beginnings of that back in 1949, and just that fascinating and just interesting account of their trip, of that exploratory trip that these two pastors from Michigan go on. And so just kind of an encouragement to us, I think, too, to continue to keep looking for places that the Lord might open doors for us to do mission work as well.
Right. Thank you, Professor Otto, for sharing your insights on the Wells 49ers.